You know, in the marshes and swamps of our neck of the woods are all kinds of creepy crawly things. But perhaps the coolest, and the one that I wish I was, we find in mossy, wet areas along the sides of streams and in drainage ditches or along farm fields. That's right, folks. Today's animal of the day is the awesome, incredible tardigrades, also known as the water bear. All right. Hey now.
Mr. Kovacs Class. It's Mr. Kovacs Class.
You might learn a ton.
It's Mr. Kovacs Class.
He's interesting too.
It's Mr. Kovacs Class.
And he's super cool.
It's Mr. Kovacs Class.
Bears. Bears. People love bears. Let's see, do you know this bear? Of course you do. Do you know this bear? Maybe. Do you recognize these? All right, these might be a little harder. Do you know this guy? Only you. Or how about this guy? Hey, boo-boo, let's get a picnic basket. Bears. We love bears. And the coolest bear isn't even a bear. It's a tardigrade. It's sometimes called the water bear. It looks kind of like a bear, except for it's microscopic. It's got twice as many legs as a bear. It doesn't have any fur, but we call it, its other fun name is called the moss piglet. All right, now here's a good place to find those little tardigrades. This is, you know, some bryophytes, some moss, and they have thin films of water. So if you're looking for tardigrades, they like to live on the moss, right? So usually what I do is I take a clump of moss like this, and then I put in a little bit of water, and then that's where we get the sample from to look for. So if you've got a microscope at home, you could look for tardigrades, look for moss. It's one of the reasons they call them the moss piglets, I think. Now here's a picture of a tardigrade taken with a light microscope. Right? They're fairly small. You could see through them pretty much, but their insides, you know, are dark with, they've got a few layers of cells. They make a few pigments, and then they also, of course, when they eat things, you usually can see what they've eaten. It's a tardigrade, a water bear, a moss piglet. Here's a picture taken with a scanning electron microscope. If you remember, these microscopes take really detailed images of the surfaces, and you can see that they are armor plated, right? So they're kind of like arthropods, but they're not arthropods. But they do have kind of this exoskeleton. And yeah, when you get to look at them this way, they've got some interesting jaws and claws and antenna, and wow, awesome animals. So what is a tardigrade? It's not like anything else, right? It's in its own phylum, which means, right, it has as much in common with an earthworm as it does with a snail, right? A tardigrade has as much in common with a rotifer as it does with a people. Okay, we're in totally different phyla. In fact, what do we have in common with tardigrades more than anything else? We are animals, multicellular eukaryotic consumers. And that's about it. Yeah. Now there's some evidence that tardigrades may be more closely related to arthropods and some worms and snails, but they're pretty much their own thing. Tardigrades. And they're pretty complex, I guess. I mean, like a lot of animals, they have a mouth and a one-way digestive system, right? And in and out. What else do they have? They have brains, and they have nerves, which means they feel pain. What else would I point out here that'd be interesting? They reproduce Well, this is under. They make eggs, but it doesn't appear that there are any male tardigrades. So they reproduce kind of asexually, but they don't just copy themselves. They do what's called parthenogenesis. So they make, yeah, they kind of, yeah, I don't know how to explain that any better than basically they just copy themselves, I guess. Right? One of the coolest things about tardigrades is they're pretty tough, right? When they're active, they're like these little bears, but they can totally dehydrate themselves. So when times are tough, they will turn their bodies into a little, it's called a ton. They'll shrink it, eject all the water out of it, and then they'll just stay like that until water returns. How tough is this ton? Let's see. We've taken tardigrades and frozen them down almost to absolute zero, coldest temperature. And then when warmed up and water added, they came right back to life as if they didn't miss a beat. We've cooked tardigrades to extremely high temperatures. And again, as soon as they cooled down and were watered up, they went back to work just as if nothing happened. NASA has even taken tardigrades and put them into space and then exposed them to the vacuum of space. No air. The tardigrades made their little ton. When they were taken back aboard the International Space Station and given some air and then a little bit of water, what do you know? They came back to life as if nothing happened. They probably are built for interstellar travel. We can learn a lot. Can you imagine if we could yeah. And of course, water bears, they're tough. You find them in moss. They eat a lot of different things. They're kind of opportunistic feeders. They eat algae. They eat bits and pieces of moss cells. They eat other micro animals. They eat protists and things like that. And the most pressing question, of course, about the water bear is, how do they wear pants? Anyway, in your part 2, you'll see some more about the water bear. And in part 3, you'll experience the awesomeness of the water bear song. Enjoy, my friends.